Welcome to part 31 of our series, Secrets of Glessner House. In this installment, we will examine all of the considerations that were made in designing the house to accommodate the 6 horses which called Prairie Avenue home during the first 20 years that the Glessners resided here. The Glessners always owned numerous horses, both for riding and for pulling their carriages. The top image shows 5 horses outside the coach house at their previous home at Washington and Morgan Streets. The bottom image shows horses at their summer estate, The Rocks, in New Hampshire. Some of the horses and carriages would be transported by train each year between Chicago and New Hampshire. A large, attached carriage house and stable were always part of the plan for the house. It is interesting to note that the image of Abingdon Abbey that inspired architect H. Richardson's design depicts the entrance to a stable yard, as seen on the left. This element translated directly into the entrance of the carriage house facing 18th Street. An elevation drawn in Richardson's office shows the carriage house entrance as it appeared in its final form. 2 horses are drawn in for scale, with the coachman in his livery and top hat shown to the left. The stable is shown in the top portion of this floor plan and included stalls for 6 horses and a modern horse washer. The carriage house is depicted in the lower portion. The harness room, also known as the tack room, is shown in between for the storage of saddles and bridles, with glassed-in cases used to hold the most valuable equipment. Directly above the stable and carriage house was the hayloft, which occupied the right half of the plan shown here. The left side, separated by a wall, was used for male servants' quarters. Red stars show the location of the 2 hayloft doors. Blue stars indicate where trap doors were positioned in the floor, and the green star shows the location of the feed bins. This image shows the back portion of the house during construction. The red arrows indicate the location of the 2 hayloft doors. This view also gives a sense of how much space was provided for horses, carriages, hay, and feed, as each of the 2 floors contains over 1,700 square feet. The larger hayloft door is located above the carriage house entrance on 18th Street. To pull the bales of hay up to this level, a rope would be thrown around the granite hoisting beam projecting over the door. Several small windows set high above the floor provided light and fresh air into the space. The hayloft door on the west side of the building, along the alley, is smaller in size and is set within a deeply recessed dormer. The smaller size and its location near the feed bins indicates this was most likely used for feed, whereas the larger door seen in the previous slide would have been used for the hay. Here we see the west hayloft door open, giving a sense of how deeply it is set into the wall and dormer. A heavy iron hook is secured into the top of the dormer, through which the rope would be fed to pull bags of feed up to the 2nd floor. 2 trapdoors in the floor of the hayloft provided a quick and easy way to drop feed and hay down to the horses. This is the smaller trapdoor in the ceiling of the stable. It is located near the feed bins above. The larger trapdoor for hay is located inside the 18th Street hayloft door and opens into the carriage house. Proper ventilation was an important consideration for the stable as well as the hayloft to ensure there was adequate air circulation around the hay. In the diagram at left, vents for both the stable and carriage house are located to either side of the feed bins. The photo at right shows the large vent positioned atop the hayloft roof, providing a way for hot air to exit the space. This is a cleaned-up version of the stable floor plan seen earlier. The 4 stalls along the right are known as standing stalls. Horses would be tied in place as there are no gates on these stalls. 2 larger box stalls can be seen on the left, adjacent to the harness room. These were large enough to allow the horses to walk around. As such, they would have had gates. A small horse yard south of the stable, shown at the top, with gates at either end, provided a space for the horses to walk around outside. This drawing shows what the front of the box stalls would have looked like. The sections with the diagonal cross bracing would have been movable. The others would be stationary. The top portion was filled in with cast iron grills, the same material used for the upper walls between the standing stalls. This made it easy for both horses and humans to see into and out of the stalls. The iron was treated with the Bauer-Barth process to deter corrosion. Stalls were surrounded with wood wainscoting, which is still in place. The stable floor consisted of 3 inches of poured concrete with 1/2 inch of asphalt on top to provide a soft surface for the horses. The asphalt was mined in the Neuchâtel province of Switzerland and was considered the best in the world. Building specifications called for cast iron stable gutters in each stall to drain away liquid waste and keep the stalls dry, clean, and free of the strong ammonia-like smell of horse urine. The gutters fed into a central cesspool shown here. The iron cover is on the left, and the interior is seen on the right. The pipes leading from the stalls are visible on both sides. A very modern convenience in the stable was a horse washer. Not much is known of its construction, but the cast iron lid for the drain, made by the J. L. Mott Iron Works of New York, remains in place. It would have also connected to the cesspool. Hitching weights, an example of which is shown on the right, would have been used to secure the horses while they were being washed. Fire was always a concern in stables. The Glessner stable would have been largely fireproof, with its concrete floor and glazed brick walls. Additionally, the horse washer would have provided a readily available source for water if needed in an emergency. A narrow window was located above each stall. A few of the window sills, such as the one seen at right, still show the marks of the horses. They would have chewed at the sills out of boredom. Stalls would have contained iron hay racks, mangers for holding feed, and troughs for water. These are shown in the plan by the half circles along the right wall, the larger circles being for water. The rack and feeders shown at right are representative examples of what ours may have looked like. An interesting feature of the standing stalls is the tie or tether rings, which were recreated in recent years. In the image at left, the outline of the original tie ring backplate is visible, with its distinctive quarter-round cutaways at the corners. The image at right is taken from a late 19th century catalog from the J. W. Fisk Ironworks Company in New York, the plate being of identical size and shape. Dana Oliveri, a graduate student in historic preservation at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago, took on the project as her master's thesis. She forged the rings using traditional blacksmithing techniques, the diameter determined by small marks on the wainscoting, indicating where the bottom of the ring hit the wood. The back plates were made of cast iron. The era of the horses came to an end in 1906, when the Glessners purchased their first automobile. The wall between the stable and carriage house was removed, and the horse stalls were torn out. The harness room, located behind the solid door at left, became a storage room. Today, it functions as a restroom. The entrance into the stable from the courtyard proved to be too small for automobiles, so the Glessners had the bottom portion bricked up and 3 windows installed above. If you look carefully, you can still see the granite threshold in place beneath the bottom course of bricks. During restoration of the courtyard in 1999, the driveway, which had long since disappeared, was recreated to its original specifications, including the grooved concrete surface. Driveways such as this, with grooves spaced about 5 inches apart, were common in the late 19th century, as the grooves provided good traction for the horses. We hope you have enjoyed learning more about all the factors that went into designing the coach house and stable to provide care and comfort for the Glessners' horses. Tune in next time when another secret will be revealed.